everybody, it's Emily at Arrrgh Schooling, and today I'm going to be ranking all of the books we read for the Arrrgh Booked Book Club this year. I thought about doing this last year, but it just never happened, so I decided I was going to make sure I did it this year. So basically, the Arrrgh Booked Book Club runs from January to October. So we read 10 books together. And I thought it would be fun to sort of rank them. Like, what was our best book that we read, in my opinion, this year? And what was like the worst book? So I'm going to try to put them in order. But before I do that, I'm just going to kind of run through all of the books that I'll be talking about today. So in January, we read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. In February, we read The Chosen and the Beautiful by Naivo. In March, we read The Light of Days by Judy Battalion. In April, we read The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. In May, we read A Lat's Away by Darcy Littlebadger. In June, we read Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. In July, we read I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. In August, we read Circe by Madeline Miller. In September, we read Jawbone by Monica Ojeda. And in October, we read The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. So the way I'm going to rank these, I'm basically going by, one, my enjoyment of the book, of course, and I'm going to go by what kind of a discussion it led to. Like, maybe it wasn't my favorite book, but we had a really great discussion, that kind of a thing. And I'm going to ask you guys to comment down below too, as like how you would rank them, particularly if you participated in book club. I'm dying to know, like, what was your favorite book we read this year? So I think I'm going to start with a negative. There's only one book that I absolutely just did not like at all. I ended up not even finishing it. Like I could not bring myself to complete this book, which kind of made me upset. And I just want to kind of get the negativity out of the way first. And that was Jawbone by Monica Ojeda. This is just not for me. I don't know if it was the writing style. I don't know if it was the weird way that it was written. I don't know. I don't think it was like the story itself, because there were elements of the story that I really did enjoy. But ultimately, this just did not work for me at all. This story is about girls who are just really awful to each other, and like, there's just no redeeming characters in this book. You have a teacher that is very bizarre and abducting one of the girls. And all of it was just very bizarre, which I don't mind a weird book, but the writing was just so hard for me to get into. Like, no paragraph breaks in many places, like just giant chunks of text with like super long sentences. And it was just really hard for me to focus and like get through the story and even enjoy it. So like, this just was a no for me. And I felt really bad because that's the first time, you guys, I've been hosting a book club for what, like 3 years or something. I had one prior to this that I did in a different way. And then I started this book club, I think, a year ago. So this is like our second year for book club. And this is the first time ever that I've picked a dud. Like, I don't know. So moving on from that, of the rest of the books I read, the next that would be a least favorite, I guess we're going to go through the negative things first, would be The Chosen and the Beautiful by Naivo. And ultimately, I think this failed for me, because in the same month, I read a different book that was very similar plot-wise and just so much better. And it just like made it really hard for me to not compare this. So this is a Great Gatsby retelling, and it focuses on Jordan Baker, who in this story is Vietnamese. And so she's kind of casted as this other, but also like their pet. Everyone loves her because she's so exotic and fun. And I love The Great Gatsby. That's one of my favorite classics. I also read Beautiful Little Fools by Gillian Cantor like a few weeks before I read this. And that was just done in such a different way but it worked better for me than this did. I felt like it had more depth. This felt very surface level to me. I don't know. I enjoyed it for what it was, but because I was constantly comparing it to Beautiful Little Fools, I feel like this I set up to not work for me. So I kind of wish I'd read this first. It probably still would have worked out the same way, but I might have had more good things to say about this rather than just constantly comparing it to Beautiful Little Fools. But overall, I thought this was fine. Just not one of my favorites. Let me look at my books and figure out what comes next. This is gonna start getting hard because there are some books in here that were just like really excellent. We're working up towards my favorite. So next I'm gonna talk about The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This is a weird one for me because it should have worked better. Like, time loops are a thing that I love, and like a weird mystery, all of that sounds like a thing that I would really enjoy. But ultimately, I didn't really enjoy this because I felt like it was impossible for you to solve the mystery, for one thing, which if I'm reading a mystery, I want to be able to figure it out. I want to be able to put together all the clues and figure out what's going on, and you could not do that with this book. It was just not possible. And also it was so incredibly convoluted for no reason. Like, once you get to the end and you figure out what exactly is happening, it makes you kind of mad that he like threw so many characters at you and you're sitting there constantly like, it's almost like math, like trying to solve this ridiculous equation where you'll never figure it out. And so I felt like that wasn't fair and it kind of ruined the story for me because, like, I don't know, that's just the thing I hate. I hate when an author like holds back some key information so that it's not possible to figure out what's happening until they tell you. I don't know, that annoys me. And so while the writing in this was nice, I mean, I have no complaints about the writing, I didn't think it was necessary to be this convoluted. Okay, everything else I have in the stack at this point are things that I really enjoyed. So now I have to figure out how to rank from here. I'm gonna say Elatsaway is like solid middle of the road for me in this stack. I did enjoy it. I think I gave this like 4 stars, but it's also a book that I've kind of forgotten. When I look over the books I read this year for book club, I remember enjoying this. I feel like it didn't leave a lasting impression for me. So I guess I'm gonna say this is like sort of in the middle. Like, I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it. And now I'm at the point where I don't really remember it that well. I don't know if, like, I don't remember it. I very vaguely remember that there was a cute ghost dog that I liked. But that's like all I really remember from the story, so I don't know. I don't know. And then the next I want to talk about is Pachinko, which was really good. I really enjoyed this, but when I look at my stack, I'm gonna say, I'll put this here. I enjoyed this quite a lot, and we did start watching the adaptation, but for whatever reason, we just kind of forgot to finish it. I think we watched the first 2 episodes, so I should probably go back and try to finish that. But I really enjoyed this. It was a very quiet book, I will say. Like, there's not a ton of action in here. This is very much a family drama, and you're going through the generations of this family, and it's beautifully written, and I really enjoyed it. I don't really have much more to say though. Like, this was really good. It's about Korean history, and you're kind of going through like Korea in modern day. I think it starts at like the turn of the century and then goes through to like the 90s, I want to say. I'm pretty sure the end, we're in the 1989, I think, is where this ends. So like, it's really interesting to see like that grand scope of that period in South Korean history. The whole thing takes place in South Korea. And it's just a really nice story. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Let's see. I'm going to say The Light of Days by Judy Battalion would be next in my ranking. I feel like at this point, though, I should show you my ranking again so you guys can remember where we're at. So I'm going to go from the bottom. We have Jawbone, which was not a good book for me. Then, what is this? The Chosen and the Beautiful. The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, Alat's Away, and Pachinko. So we're kind of in the middle. So next is The Light of Days by Judy Battalion. This is nonfiction. This is the only nonfiction book we read this year. And I loved this. I thought it was great, but the writing was not my favorite. Of the books we read this year, this was like probably the only one besides Jawbone that I just like had a hard time with the writing. I ended up listening to the audiobook to help me get through it because I knew I would love this. I knew it had information in it that I wanted to know. I just was struggling to read it with my eyes and to get it. This is all about the women of the resistance, specifically Jewish women, during World War II in Nazi Germany and Nazi-occupied Europe. And these are people that I should know who they are, but I had never heard about any of them. And I just thought this was amazing. This talks about so many different women who were so brave and so amazing and able to accomplish so many little minor victories against the Nazis. And I found it fascinating. I really want to read individual biographies about each and every one of the women mentioned in here so I can get more from that. But like I said, the writing, not my favorite. I think it felt very repetitive at times too. That's really my only complaint. I thought this was fantastic. I have the young readers version too that I like really need to pick up and read sometime. Okay, now we're getting hard. This is what I have left. How am I gonna do this? I think I know what my favorite is. The rest of it is what's tripping me up right now. I think I'm going to put I Must Betray You next. This is Ruta Sepetys. I loved, like all of these are books that I absolutely loved. These are some of my favorite books that I read in 2022. So you're going to hear me talk about these all again later in another video. But this is set in 1989 in Romania, right on the cusp of the revolution. And you're following a character who is a teenage boy living in this time. And this story was kind of like, I want to say shocking, but not really shocking. It was just like mind-blowing to think about people living through this period and like what that must have been like. And where every single person you know is possibly a spy. You don't know who you can trust. You don't even know if you can trust your mother, your father, your sister, anybody. And so it's just like amazing to think about like people dealing with that on top of starving because there's no food. You have to wait in these long lines, and all you might end up with at the end of the day is a potato or an ounce of cooking oil. And like it's just really an interesting story just for that. But also she's great at writing these like fast-paced, like you can't stop reading kind of stories where like you just really root for the main character and you need to know that they're going to be okay at the end. You want to know what's going to happen to them. I just thought this was great. I love her writing. I really need to read more of her books. Okay, from here I think, I don't know which one of these I want to say next. I'm gonna, yes, okay. I'm gonna say The Weight of Blood will be like my third favorite. This might be one of my favorite books I read this year too, so like this is hard. Okay, so this is also the one we read the most recently. This was the October book, and I loved it. This is a Carrie retelling, but modernized and talking about race in America. Oh my god, this was so good. Like, I just like could not stop reading. I was so interested to see where this was gonna go, how Tiffany D. Jackson was gonna like change it up. What was she gonna do to make this unique and interesting? And she nailed it. I thought this was fantastic. I loved the characters in this. I loved how she switched it up. I just thought this was so good, so well done, so interesting. If you're a fan of Carrie, if you like retellings, I highly recommend reading this because I thought it was an exceptionally good retelling of a story that I know really well and that I think a lot of people know really well. Just like, even if you've never read Carrie, you know what that is. You've probably seen at least one of the movies. And like, I thought this was really, really good. I kind of hope this gets adapted, honestly. I think it would be really interesting to like have this as a movie to compare with the Stephen King version. I don't know. I loved this. Loved it. Okay, now I have 2 books left, and I know what my favorite is. So we're gonna say Circe is my second favorite of the year. I thought this was just so intricately woven and so good. Like, I love mythology retellings, and this is some of the best of mythology retellings. This is a story where you're following Circe, who is a goddess. And so you're following her over this like huge span of time, but it never feels like it's been a really long time. So like the story flows really well, but you get such an amazing scope of Greek mythology. The way she like weaves Circe into everything was just like chef's kiss, perfect, amazing. The writing is gorgeous. I will read literally anything Madeline Miller puts out. I've heard there's a Persephone Hades retelling coming, and I am so excited. But this was just beautiful, and like, I don't know, I just loved it. I think by now you've guessed my favorite book of the year was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, which I thought was just phenomenal. Like, I loved this so much. Also, this is a tie, I'm gonna say. The 2 best audiobooks I've maybe ever listened to were these. The Weight of Blood is a full cast, and it's like, has a podcast element, and so the audio has like literally a full cast. So every character has a different narrator. It's just so good, and it made me not be able to like stop listening. This, however, is one guy doing the whole thing, but he is so talented, like riveted, the whole book. So good. This is a story about a man who wakes up to find himself on this spacecraft, and then he has to figure out why he's there, who he is, what is happening. It goes back and forth in time a little bit, so you're like learning about what his life was like on Earth, why he is in space, what is his mission, what is he trying to do. This is some of my favorite sci-fi that I've ever read. I love the way Andy Weir writes these isolation stories. Like, I loved The Martian, which was about a man trapped on Mars and trying to figure out how to survive until someone could come rescue him. And this is a story very similar of a man sort of trapped in space and trying to figure out what he's supposed to do to fix everything so he could come back home and get back to Earth. Or will he? Will he be able to get back to Earth? He doesn't even know if he'll make it back. And so it's just a really interestingly written story. But there's also an alien. I don't think that's a spoiler. There's also an alien involved, and I am obsessed with stories, and I want more of them, where it's not like, oh no, aliens are invading and we're all gonna die. I want more stories where it's like, hey, let's figure out how to get along with this alien species so we can like work together and be friends. I love that. And so that element of this plot just made this novel for me. It was so good, so well done, such a fantastic book. I'm trying to convince my 13-year-old to let me read this with her. I think we're going to listen to the audiobook again because honestly, like, I can't compete with that. So that's it. Okay, let me see if I can pick this up. I made this top heavy. I don't know if I'll be able to pick them up without hurting myself, but that's it right here. Oh my gosh, no. This is my ranking of the Arrrgh book club selections for 2022. I think we had a really good reading year, guys. I feel like there were far more amazing books than there were duds. So I feel like we did good. We had some really good discussions. We had some really great books to talk about, and I'm really excited to figure out the lineup for 2023 because, like, This is one of the most fun things that I do. Like, I love, I'm gonna put these down because it hurts. Okay. I love my book club. I love that you guys want to read with me and discuss books. Like, it's so much fun. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below in the comments, what was your favorite book that we read together this year? I would love to know. Like, was this also your favorite, or did we read something else that just blew you away? Let me know down below so we can chat about it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Happy reading. Bye.